So we've got a couple of different kind of presentations going today. It's not an extensive agenda by any means, so we're probably going to get out a little early. And so with that, we're going to start off with Maddie Camillet from the Bureau of Community Action and Economic Opportunity. And she's going to kind of introduce a marketing campaign that they are working on for promotion of the weatherization program. And unless anybody has anything that they would like to speak up about right now, I'll turn it over to Maddie.
That sounds great. Thanks, Brad. I'm gonna get the screens going. All right. Well, Brad, I want to say thank you for letting us present today. And I don't have a very long presentation, but I did want to, it's been a while since I officially spoke with the EWR Low Income Workgroup. And I know I've mentioned some of the things happening with us, but I did want to talk about our efforts in the area of expansion because we are undergoing a rapid expansion right now. And we're specifically talking about the marketing campaign that we will be undergoing. It hasn't started yet, but we are developing it. So that's what I'm going to talk about today, but I'm happy to take questions about expansion or any of the other aspects of what's going on in weatherization. I guess I should introduce myself. I know many of you, but in case I haven't met you before, my name is Maddie Camillet. I'm the weatherization specialist at the Bureau of Community Action in MDHHS. And that means I work specifically with Department of Energy's Weatherization Assistance Program, which is a major program in the low income energy efficiency space. Our program ties to probably most, if not all of your work in some way. Our program is administered locally by 24 organizations called community action agencies that implement and administer the program either through staff directly or through contractors. So you may be familiar with the organization in your local area running weatherization. I'm the state contact for that program. So with that said, I'm going to get going in the specific topic. So I do want to let you know that we're undergoing a major expansion right now. The Department of Energy, as part of the bill or IIJA, the infrastructure law, received $3.5 billion to boost the weatherization assistance program. So our program is usually funded around $300 million annually across the country. What that turns into is about $20 million for Michigan. We have been seeing slight increases in our formula annually every year. So next year, it'll be about $21 million that we get, which is our typical program. That's the Weatherization Assistance Program, what you've known for years, what we had before ARA, what we had during ARA, and then what we have had since, and that will continue, that formula funding. So that funding gets us enough money to weatherize about 1,300 to 1,400 homes per year. So throughout the state, we're in all 83 counties. Each community action agency has its own allocation. So you may be seeing tens of homes in your local community weatherized, or hundreds, depending on which community you live in, on an annual basis. So that's our typical program. And then with bill, or the IIJA, Michigan is receiving $183 million on top of our $20 million annually. So just to give you an idea, over that time period, that's 12,837 homes. That has to be on top of the 13 to 1,400 annually. So we can't double count those. So we're essentially looking to, and you can see the time period is 5 to 10 years. So they wrote the language exactly as available until expended, which we estimate we're aiming for 5 years. We estimate it'll be a bit more. We're hoping maybe we can get it wrapped up in 7, but some states are estimating it'll take them 10. So that's why I put 5 to 10 on here. So if we, if you look at these numbers and you divide this by 10, like the long side of the grant, that's still 1,283 homes on top. That's almost doubling the size of our program. And if we do 5 years, it's almost tripling the size of our program. So we need to expand, and we need to expand now. We need to expand yesterday, and that's what we've been working on. But we're in the midst of this right now. We received the funding. We received the funding in the fall. We were able to get the funding started at the agencies in November. So they have this influx of money. They have goals for both formula and bill that they have to achieve. And we are kind of doing all ideas to get our program expanded. So I'm going to talk to you guys about that in a little bit. But our fundamental kind of foundational aspect of expansion is that we need more clients and we need more contractors. If we can get both of those, then we can expand. So that's kind of like where we're moving with all of our expansion efforts. And I'll talk to you about some of those next. So expansion, it's happening at all levels of the program. I've mentioned the program is funded by Department of Energy at the federal level. It comes to MDHHS, that's our office. And then we administer it to the local agencies, which are CAAs. And so in each of those levels, we're seeing rapid expansion. So at the CAAs, what we're seeing right now is they're broadening their org charts. So they're adding positions, they're hiring administrative staff or have hired them and are training them up. They are seeking to onboard additional contractors. They're seeking to onboard additional technical staff. They're training energy auditors and quality control inspectors, which are some of our more specialty roles that take a little bit more time to get folks ready to perform the work. And then they're seeking additional clients. So they're reaching out in their local networks, depending on the community, because some of them already have more clients than they can serve. Some of them really need more clients. And some of them are expanding into multifamily work. So we're seeing that happen as well. We've seen some pretty great multifamily projects get started. We have to sort of pilot multifamily in Michigan to run it through Department of Energy. And we've been doing that, and we're seeing some really promising results with some of our agencies. So that's what's happening at the local agency level. At the state, I have a lot more bullets here because this is our work. I'm sure there are plenty more bullets that are happening at the CAAs and that are happening at DOE, but I can speak directly to this. So we are going to be expanding the number of subgrantees. So I've been mentioning the CAAs. We will be adding additional entities to deliver our program. We will have an RFP very soon for a statewide multifamily provider. So I mentioned that some of our CAAs are going to be doing multifamily work, and they'll be able to continue doing that. But since not everyone is doing it and not everyone has the capacity to learn that, and some of our multifamily work just is by nature more complicated based on the buildings, we are seeking an entity who will be qualified to do that, either backup or primary statewide. I cannot speak very specifically about that because the RFP is almost finished and released, but I know it will be mailed out to this mailing list when it's released. So we have to be really specific about our federal procurement process, and this is one of those items. When we are seeking a subgrantee, though, it will go out to our mailing lists, including this one. So Brad, I'll be sure to send that to you. And then on top of that, we are very likely adding at least a few single family subgrantees, and that RFP will be later, probably this year, but after the multifamily one. And those will likely be for areas of our state that we're seeing kind of like year after year, lower proportions of people being served. So targeting areas where we think there are quite a few more clients than we've been able to serve. We're also doing an interest survey and collecting it, which is essentially like a way for anyone, like a single touch point for anyone to get pulled into our program. So we would be more than happy to share this survey with you all. I think maybe Brad, I'll send it to you after this, or maybe if Lisa's on the call, she can send it to you while we're on this meeting. But either way, we'll get it to you. It's just a simple form. If people say, hey, I'm interested, like, hey, maybe I would want to work in that program, or maybe I would want to receive that program. We just have people fill it out. Our wonderful staff person, Lisa Ritter, receives those forms, and she gets in contact with those people. She feels out kind of where they stand, what they're interested in, where they would look to be, like where they're located, and gets them connected to the local agency. She's also developing a stronger pipeline for people. So she is building an intro packet that people will receive, and then also an orientation to get people more familiar with weatherization as part of that work. So we're seeing good results from that. The interest survey has been out for maybe 3 or 4 months, and we've received quite a few of them, and we're seeing, I think we got 2 more yesterday. So they trickle in, but it's a good way to get people connected if they don't know how to connect. We are administering pilots and focusing on, when we do pilots, training pilots, that people can be paid in full for their time. So there is an energy auditor cohort pilot that will be taking place at Wayne Metro Community Action in March, starting in March, where we are focusing on training people for the energy auditor role. We also have policy for putting together retrofit installer cohort, which would be a shorter, similar one. We don't have any agencies at this point in time doing that, but we have many that have expressed interest. So hopefully we get to a point where we're running that one too. We are hiring quite a few positions in civil service, which is directly through the state, and as MPHI contractors, which are our direct contractors with MDHHS. Roles are kind of all across the board. We're hiring administrative people. We are hiring more monitors, more technical monitors, and we're hiring technical instructors through MyTech. If people are interested in any of those positions, feel free to reach out to me. I can give people more information. This will be going, the hiring will be happening in waves over the next few months. So we have quite a few roles that are opening up. We're also creating a standard for contractor stipends to be compensated during training. We have required trainings that people have to attend, and we've received feedback that they lose money if they're out of homes for a day. So we have figured out a way to compensate them, and we are creating outreach materials for contractors so that they can learn more about weatherization. David Gard from Mika and Ben Dewicki from Walker Miller ran a wonderful survey for us about a year ago that was of over 100 contractors in Michigan, and we found out that about 30% of them had never heard of our program, which for us, that's major low-hanging fruit. Like, if we can just get people to hear about our program, maybe we will get more contractors. So we're trying to expand and broaden our outreach materials so that more contractors can see our program and understand what it is. We are partnering with local CAAs at outreach events. so that we can help them get more contractors or clients locally. Identifying partnerships. We've been talking with MSU about building a framework for internships and communicating all the time with stakeholders about getting us additional supplemental funding, which I know has been a big conversation topic in this group, specifically around LIHEAP and us not getting enough LIHEAP compared to other states, which is an ongoing conversation. But we are perpetually trying to get everyone who's a decision maker to understand that, because although I just explained to you all that we are getting a lot of funding, it's highly regulated. And if we don't get matching funds, essentially, or funds that can supplement it, we aren't able to do all the measures that we want to do when we think of whole home weatherization. So those are all things we're doing during expansion. And then I do want to mention Department of Energy is also, they've completely restructured. The weatherization office is in a totally different part of their org chart than it was before. And they are hiring additional staff, including Ray Judy, who used to be with our training center, MyTech. I did want to mention it on this call. Ray has gone to DOE. He's going to be supervising the technical project officer, so our technical contacts there. We are very happy for him. It means we're having some organizational shifts in MyTech, which is our training center. Chris Shano, who's our executive director, is taking the helm right now and really assessing all the training needs in the network. So we're excited about the changes, but there are big changes happening.
Maddie,
Okay. Yeah.
There is a long string of questions. I'm sorry, in the chat, and I was supposed to monitor it for you, and I wasn't paying attention.
I wasn't either.
Do you want me to read them out to you, and we'll just go through them all, or do you want to wait on it? It's entirely up to you. Okay.
Yeah, that would be good.
Okay. The first one is from Doug Chappell, and he asks, is the 183 million every single year, or that's spread out over the 5 to 10 year period? I think you already answered that.
Yep. Yep. Spread out. Yep.
Okay. And then how many weatherization contractors are currently supporting the 1,300 to 1,400 homes annually?
That's a good question. I'm not sure if Alex is on the call. She may be able to get it. Okay, ballpark. Our small agencies are typically working with 1 to 2, and our bigger agencies, like Wayne Metro is our biggest agency, and I think they have about 5 contractor companies. So, and some of those companies work with multiple agencies. So I would say a few dozen companies. We have 24 agencies, probably talking about 30 companies of contractors. That's just my ballpark without having the information in front of me.
I think 30 to 40 shell, and then there's going to be similar numbers of mechanical.
Thanks, Alex. I knew Alex would know. So Alex has the exact numbers. And those are, shell is our like insulation and kind of structural, and then mechanical. And then we also use the auditors and QCIs, which can be contractors, but those are kind of like our inspector roles. So that's a little bit different.
Okay. Marty asks, when you get a chance, can you discuss the funding and capability situation regarding the deferral issue and what needs to happen there to enable the ramp up?
So that's kind of an ongoing conversation. Deferrals. So about 3 years ago, we did not have any money for deferrals, like at all. And it was a major problem, because when we say deferrals, we mean homes that are not appropriate to weatherize, because the measures that we would be installing would either make the home less safe, or the measures themselves would get damaged because of the conditions of the home. So you can think of things like structural issues, holes in roofs or leaky roofs, mold, moisture problems, asbestos, electric issues like knob and tube wiring. There are quite a few conditions in Michigan housing stock that would cause deferrals. Those issues can be very expensive to repair, and they weren't really within the scope of our program. So about 4 years ago, we really started trying to tackle this issue. we put together a one-pager for a lot of you, and a lot of you did a really good job advocating for us. And we ended up getting $5 million last fiscal year to address deferrals. And that was excellent. We addressed about 400 homes that wouldn't have been weatherized, and they all, or the vast majority of them, became weatherization homes. The results from that program are still being processed because some of them are still getting weatherized. In the meantime, the advocacy community still stepped up for us and made sure that we got $1.8 million this year, which is less, but it was a placeholder kind of as we learned the results of that program. And coupled with that, Department of Energy loosened their rules and gave us about $900,000 that we could use for deferrals. So this year we have 1.8 million from general fund and about 900,000 from DOE that we can use for deferrals. So we're looking at a little under $3 million. And then we've been notified that the DOE component will double next year. So we're looking at about 2 million coming from DOE to do weatherization readiness or deferral reduction. And we are hearing, so nothing has been given to us or written into a budget, but we are hearing that there are talks for general funds to come to that too. And we saw some positive signs in the governor's budget recommendations yesterday that we would potentially see deferral reduction funding and maybe some supplemental funding if her budget came to fruition. So I think there will still be some type of combination of DOE funds and general funds addressing deferrals moving forward. So we are seeing some really good momentum in that area.
Does the new funding allow for work in manufactured homes?
Yes. Yep. Oh, I'm about to cover a little bit of that, but yes, we do site-built, manufactured, and multifamily housing.
Then let's see. Karen's asking, is there a possible increase for administrative costs from these Fed dollars to help with the hiring and retention at the CAAs and other entities that may receive the funding? Typically, the admin allowances are pretty low.
So no, admin is written into our program at statute. Congress has to change it. However, there was a statutory change in 2020, which raised the admin level. Since then, I have not been hearing that complaint as much. And some of the reasons why our admin threshold is relatively high compared to other federal programs. And in addition to that, we have another cost called support costs, which are higher. And those are kind of like operations costs for the weatherization program specifically. So like a weatherization manager can be paid out of support, not admin, for example. And then that kind of helps offset admin costs. So we have a lot of rules on our dollars, unfortunately, but that is one of our more flexible ones. So I don't hear that complaint as much as some of my friends and working in other federal programs. It's a good question.
Will the new sub-grantees have to be nonprofits?
Yes, all of our sub-grantees have to be nonprofits or local government, and the statewide one has to be a nonprofit. And then the single family ones may be able to be local government or nonprofit, but that's also a statutory requirement by Congress. Let's see. I see Brad's dog is, oh, okay, there you are.
Yeah, I had to let my dog out.
Yeah.
he was batting at me. Brett's asking about, will you send a link for the energy audit training program, or is it on the MyTech site?
So the energy auditor cohort that I was talking about is going to be filled by Wayne Metro. It's limited to 4 individuals, and I think they've already identified the people. MyTech does have its training listed at all points in time on the website. And if an entity wants to get involved with having energy auditors, what I would say is work with your local community action agency and see if they would be willing to host one of these cohorts. Once we get this one run with Wayne Metro, we're looking to have it held at other CAAs. It's a 10-week program, so it's not a small commitment, but if there are people at that CAA who want to be energy auditors, the CAA could theoretically hold that if they need auditors. So I would say work with your local CAA if you want to see a similar cohort in your area.
Does that answer your question, Brett?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Laura, I'm reading your question and I don't really understand it. So maybe you could just ask.
Happy to do so. Thanks, Brad. And hi, Maddie. Laura Goldberg with
Hi.
NRDC. Yeah, just curious. So I know before some of the BIL dollars came down, there were some like additional applications and plans that had to go to DOE in terms of how states would use the dollars. And I know there were some like new things that could be added. So I'm just curious, is there anything new? Or maybe you've already covered some of that here in terms of what those dollars could be used for within the state weatherization. And I'm thinking about like fuel switching, pre-decarb, decarb measures, and then deferrals, but you already kind of covered the deferrals piece.
So yeah, so all that stuff, yes, we did have to submit a separate state plan. The guidance on all of those things is not okay. The rules on all of those things is not different between bill and DOE except the deferral money. The deferral money is only in our formula. We can't do deferral reduction with the bill grant just because of how it was funded to us. So excuse me. So the things that are more innovative, like putting renewables on a home, electrification, fuel switching, are all allowable in the program, but generally are more cost effective using supplemental funding. For example, if we installed a solar panel on a house, that would have to come out of our average cost per unit, which is about $8,000, and would directly affect the amount of insulation we could put in a home, the heating systems we can put in a home, etc. So, solar panel is going to be expensive. But if we could, for example, have LIHEAP funds or state general funds that can be paired and can, focus on renewables or focus on lowering a carbon footprint, then we can offset those costs and pair them with weatherization very easily. That's kind of a big goal in the supplemental funding conversation. I will say there is a paper that we've put together with MPSC with a different section than Brad's, but there is an application that will be, I believe, is going to be green-lighted to be written, and it could pilot some of these items to offset being installed with weatherization, including upgrading electric panels and putting backup electric sources in homes for when people lose power. If we can upgrade panels outside of the cost of weatherization, that's one step in the direction of also being able to electrify the home or install an air source heat pump, for example. So all of these things are tangential priorities and allowable in weatherization, but because they come at the exact cost with our funding sources of lowering the amount of insulation we can install or lowering the amount of, air sealing we can do, it's detrimental for it to only come out of DOE costs. The better approach is for it to be offset by other supplemental funding, which is why supplemental funding is so important in our program.
That's super helpful, Maddie. Just really quick follow-up, and then I see Brett has his hand up. Are you currently doing heat pumps in all electric homes and buildings, if it's like electric resistance heat, and doing those upgrades?
It's allowable. It's kind of like currently being analyzed as how would we best model it in our energy audit software, and B, how many of our mechanical contractors are even familiar with this technology and how many of them need training. So we did just pilot like 2 weeks ago or a week ago through my tech with our mechanical instructor, an air source heat pump class. and it was for auditors, so that auditors could assess a home and say an air source heat pump would be appropriate to install or convert this home to. So I would say we're on the cusp. Like, if we can get auditors to know how to identify when a home would be appropriate for it and it wouldn't be adding to energy burden or costs for clients, and then B, know how to get it modeled, it is allowable in our program.
Super helpful.
Brett, why don't
Thanks,
you go ahead?
Maddie.
Yeah, one of the issues that keeps coming back on the heat pump, even if it came back financially feasible in the model, was that we were always told that to fuel switch, they have to get an approval letter from the state, and that just sort of discouraged as one more piece of paperwork that has to be done in the long process. So I'm curious if that is trying to being worked on, and also if that's something that has to happen when you do a dual fuel approach. So if you just get rid of the air conditioning and put in a heat pump and pair it with the furnace, do they still need that letter of approval? Thank you.
If DOE funds are used to switch the fuel of the heating system or the water heater, like any specific appliance, then they do have to be approved now by the state, not by Department of Energy, which used to happen and it used to take a lot longer, but they do have to be approved by the state. If, again, for example, we had LIHEAP funds or state general funds where we could just say air source heat pumps are allowable, like fuel switching is allowable for these measures without review, we can write that into state policy, but we cannot change DOE's rules on that. So that's another reason why DOE funds are probably not the most appropriate for this type of supplementation of our program, but having that component in our program is really important. It just comes with the need for supplemental funding.
Yeah, and I would just be curious if you're just getting rid of the air conditioning and putting the heat pump as an AC, if that would activate that. And I don't know if there's an answer to that right now, but just to think about that. So
yeah, I mean, I think it would you'd have to like not model the heating component in the model. I think it would get really caveat-y. But that's not my realm. But if your heating system is being assessed for something that's a different fuel, then it has to be approved by the state. By DOE rules.
Somebody else has their hands up, but I can't see who it is. If you want to go ahead.
So this is Andrew from UPCO. So with respect to the heat pump piece, if an auditor were to identify a heat pump may be a viable option, if it's funded through the utility program, does it even get considered with the DOE dollars and costs piece that way?
It does not get considered with the DOE dollars. What we'd have to figure out, Andrew, which this is all theoretical. I think there'd be a way to figure this out. You'd have to figure out at what point in time is it advantageous to install the air source heat pump versus run the energy audit. And when I say that, that's because the energy audit is a whole home assessment that assesses current conditions. So maybe the old heating system would have a lot more savings than the air source heat pump in terms of insulation and air sealing. So maybe it could justify more insulation. You see where I'm going with that? Yeah. So it's
we typically recommend the weatherization be done first anyway, so you have the lowest load necessary in a home. But I'm just asking because we typically fully fund a certain number of heat pumps for our low income. We've already installed well over 80 in our service territory in the last 3 years. Right. So.
And I know we're talking about this with you, Andrew, specifically in the UP, getting more familiar. This is all kind of something we're going to have to learn together. What is the best approach with the energy audit? What is the best approach? But when there's supplemental funding in our program, it gives us a lot more of an ability at the state level to write things like this exception can happen. So it's food for thought, but it's kind of theoretical at this point until we start actually looking at the models together.
Thank you, Maddie.
There's another hand up, and I didn't see who it was.
Yeah, this is actually Ed Rivet. Sorry, I came logged in under my colleague's Teams account for some reason, so I'm not Emily Pallarino. This is Ed Rivet for my stuff. Maddie, I saw in the budget messages yesterday, including supplemental requests, and understanding amongst some of us on the call who were, swinging the budget circles. There was 25 million that the governor had put into your department for pre-weatherization. Are we not supposed to assume that's to help with deferral in particular?
That is.
All right.
She had 25 million written in for deferral reduction. And then there was 50 million written in for essentially supplemental funding of the program. So yeah, the recommendations were strong for us yesterday.
Yeah, I didn't hear you mention it, and I assumed in the conversations from yesterday, reading that 25 million for deferral, because you were mentioning DOE is going to give us 900,000 and double it, and there was some other, but compared to 25 million, that's pretty small. So I thought 25 million was a pretty big deal. Was I missing something?
I did subtly say we saw some good signs in the governor's budget recommendations yesterday. The reason why, I have been told many times that funding is coming and it doesn't come. So, we just have to only have plans for what we literally know is happening. I am hopeful for this. We have seen a lot of really good signs that the governor's office supports us, the department supports us getting additional funding, and there's great understanding. A big part of that also is the period of time that it's available, which appeared to be a few fiscal years, which would be really good because that amount of money over a few fiscal years would be doable for us. So I'm hopeful for that, but just we're not sure until we get it.
Just not counting any chickens.
Exactly. Exactly.
Right.
For example,
there's an awful lot of us who want to do what we can to make sure that actually materializes and just doesn't end up some print on a letter.
Yeah, thank you. And we are absolutely in that wheelhouse. This group has been a huge support for us receiving additional LIHEAP, and that has been a major roller coaster. The state plan had us written in for a higher amount than we received this year. So even when we see it written, it doesn't mean that the funds get to our office. And that's kind of my point. Just until we're certain the money's coming, it's difficult for us to ramp up and hire.
There's something from Julie Cassidy here for you, Maddie. Do you know if the weatherization funding the governor announced in the budget yesterday is intended for any of the specific purposes outlined here? And I'm assuming she's referencing your slides.
That those two are, my understanding is the 25 million is for deferrals, so pre-weatherization, weatherization readiness. It's all the same concept. There's a lot of funny ways of calling it. And then the 50 million is for essentially offsetting these costs, supplementing the program in the way that I was talking about with air source, heat pumps or other renewables, other components that DOE is more restrictive about.
And will client communications, flyers, YouTube videos, etc., be available in Spanish and Arabic, and how soon after the English versions are released?
Yeah, so this is something we didn't ask in our communications meeting, which we can at our next meeting. That's a good question. So it's going through MDHHS communications. So whichever is the standard in MDHHS is what we're going to do, but we will ask that specifically. Lisa, if you can help me remember to ask that of communications, I think that's a good question.
I will do that, Maddie.
Thank you.
Brett, you got a whole bunch of stuff in here still. Did you get your questions all answered that I'm scrolling down through?
Yeah, thanks, Brad. My question that also came up was for contractors, a lot of them work in multiple counties, like here, they work in Kent, Ottawa, Muskegon. And so I'd be curious if there's any thought about onboarding them at a regional or even state level so that they can just fill out one thing and then work with multiple. Otherwise, it, could be a deterrence of having to fill out multiple applications for multiple counties. If there's been any thought there?
There's been tons of conversation about this. It's not, the state cannot contract with contractors directly because of the nature of our grant relationship. So it's more like, how can we facilitate our subs to work together? Because they have to do the RFP process. So things that we've done, we have a centralized training center. If someone receives training at our training center, they don't have to, like the CAA does not have to collect the records for that, for example. We've talked about, and something we're working on, which we haven't really cracked just in terms of software, is like having a central repository for people to go and look and see, like, oh, this contractor is onboarded, and that means this agency like had them run background checks, etc. It's something we are looking to do, but we haven't completely gotten there. So like facilitating that relationship for our CAAs, but they would have to ultimately be the ones entering into the contract, kind of figuring out what they can share with other CAAs. Another component of this is, more so for, well, really for any contractor, but maybe even for like the auditors, having standard expectations of what an audit looks like, or having standards for your contractors of when you receive a work order from us, what does it look like? So there's a drawn picture of the home, and the work order is printed in Excel, and all the words are written out like this, and notes are located here. Like, these are kind of conversations we've been trying to facilitate. Again, like, we don't dictate what a CAA requires in terms of paperwork for their workers, but if they can get on the same page with one another, it would make it professionally easier and more feasible for contractors to translate from one CAA to another. And I know some of our CAAs are big champions of this. Like, they've been working in their local regions and have tried to get the contractors to work with other CAAs, and in turn are working with those CAAs to kind of streamline, like, professionally, what does this look like for the contractor? So it's absolutely talked about. It's just like, it's not like something the state can take and say, here, we're going to do this. So it's more piecewise efforts.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think we've kind of covered everything that's in the chat.
Okay.
There's a lot of
Brad,
conversation
this
in there.
is way longer than I thought it was going to be.
That's what I was just going to say. I was just like, Maddie thought she was going to be in and out of here in about 15 minutes. I'm just like, no way. Once they get you pinned down, you're not going anywhere.
It's good. It's been a while since I've presented, and obviously people want to talk about the program, and I'm more than happy to talk about the program all the time. So
there's another hand raised. So whoever it is, go ahead.
Okay.
All right. It was a question I had in the chat about whether client communications, flyers, YouTube videos, etc., would be available in Spanish and Arabic, and how soon after the English versions are released.
So we touched on that. We're going to work with MDHHS Communications to figure that out, because that's the campaign has to happen external to our office, and we don't know the answer, but we're going to follow up based on your question.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Linda, go ahead.
If you're talking,
you might be muted, Linda.
I apologize. I spoke with Mandy Berry from Capital Area Community Services Weatherization Program a couple of weeks ago, and she said that there's a 1-year waiting list on weatherization. So even with additional money, it sounds like they're still not going to be able to take on new clients.
So what that means to me when I hear that, which actually this is weird coincidence, but I was just emailing with CICS about their waiting list. When a CAA has a major waiting list, what it means is there's an imbalance between contractor capacity and clients. So they need more. I'm asking them specifically, but my guess is they need more contractors onboarded so that they can meet the need, because Those are really where we run into snags. Either you don't have enough clients to weatherize, you don't have enough contractors or crews to specifically address the homes, or sometimes you don't have enough auditors or inspectors to get those work orders written. So I actually have that question in with CACS to see if they know which type of contractor and like how we can support them. Because yeah, a multi-year waiting list, or after waiting lists get beyond dozens of people, it's difficult for people to feel motivated to apply.
Okay, all right, well, thank you.
Yep.
Anybody else have anything else for Maddie before we let her escape?
I do have a few more slides, but I don't feel like, I mean, I'll
right,
cover
sorry.
them. It's quick.
You go right
It's
ahead.
quick. I don't need to spend tons of time on this, but basically what we're going to do beyond our expansion efforts, we are running a marketing campaign. It's going to be a twofold marketing campaign. The first component is going to be YouTube videos. So we are working right now to record YouTube videos with MDHHS Communications. Those YouTube videos, once they're done, they're going to show, you know, diverse housing stock, diverse client base, diverse components of the job, like what an auditor is doing versus what a shell installer is doing. And after those are recorded, those will be available to all of our partners, available on our website. We would love for you all to be able to share them. And they'll just really like be intended to show people what is weatherization. We'll have client testimonials. So really kind of like a slice of people seeing weatherization. So YouTube videos will be the first item. And then we're also going to be running a social and digital marketing campaign through MDHHS Communications. So that'll be things like ads on your cell phone, ads on social media for weatherization. We are focusing on that happening at least during the first 2 years of bill. Obviously, we're in year 1, but through year 2 at least. And we will also be including a toolkit for our partners, so our CAAs, but any of you also, to show people how to share and use our marketing campaign to also distribute the word. So I'm excited about this. This is something we did meet with the marketing company this week, and I think we're getting close to being able to run this campaign too. So you can think of like the thing, like when COVID, you know, was really underway, you probably saw MDHHS ads for COVID vaccines, and we won't be doing the TV spots and radio spots as much, but the things that you may have seen on your phone, like that's kind of what you can imagine you would see from our office. So we're excited to launch this. We will be asking about it happening in multiple languages. Thank you for that. And then these are the target groups. These are some of the talking points we're going to have. I don't have to spend tons of time on this because I know I took a lot more time than we were planning. So we're targeting the general public to tell people what is weatherization, potential clients to figure out, you know, this is all the stuff it can do for you in your home, and make you more comfortable, be a benefit to the environment, etc. Existing contractors, why working in the weatherization assistance program is so positive for their business. People who may want to get involved in our workforce. What is the benefit of working in weatherization? What do you learn? How does it help you in your career in the long run? And we are also going to be targeting people who are like students, so looking at more short-term, maybe internships or temporary work in our field as well. So that's it. If you do have ideas about outreach efforts or any other questions about expansion, you can contact me. We're very hopeful that this outreach campaign will broaden both our contractor base and our client base, which is really what we need to do to expand. So thank you all for taking the time to listen to us today. And I'm more than happy to answer weatherization questions in general. So I'm here. I'm on for the rest of the call if other questions come up. And Brad, thanks for giving us a platform to talk about this.
Yeah, thanks, Maddie. Linda, did you have another question, or you just didn't take your hand down from the last one?
I just hadn't taken my hand down. Sorry.
Okay. All right. Good
Yep,
enough.
good.
All right. Thanks, Maddie. I really appreciate putting in all the time and the effort. And just in case nobody else caught that, the new word of the day is caveat-y. I had to write that one down. I got to figure out how to work that into conversation.
I don't think it's a word, but okay.
All right. So we're just we'll just jump right in. I have Jonathan Clark from Walker Miller Energy Services and Jose Goncalves from DTE, and they are going to be talking about the Energy Efficiency Academy program that just right before Christmas finished their first graduating class. So I will turn it right over to you guys to go. Go ahead.
Thank you, Brad. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, team. Maddie, very exciting stuff going on. So thank you for all the updates. I will share my slides here shortly. Just
Jose, you want me to monitor the chat and ask questions as we go, or you want to wait till the end?
if we would be okay to just wait until the end, that way we can just go through the slides a little bit quicker and
whatever you
ensure that
like.
we cover everything. Thank you. Let me just just 1 second here. Okay, is everyone able to see?
Yes,
we're good. It's actually going to go back. Okay, so good morning, everyone. Brad, thank you very much for giving us the platform, taking a little bit of time here out of everybody's Monday as well. As you mentioned, just want to share some few updates on the work that we've done last year that started really in 2022, but on the workforce development here through DTE. My name is Jose Gonçalves. For those of you who may not know me, I'm a manager at DTE on our energy efficiency team. And with me is Jonathan Clark with Walker Miller. Jonathan, I don't know if you want to do a quick intro as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Jonathan with Walker Miller Energy Services, manager of workforce development. So myself and my colleague Derek, who is our director, have been going forward with our initiatives in workforce development. So look forward to inform you guys on what we're doing and what we got coming up.
Thank you. So just a brief agenda. I'll go through a quick background on how we got here today, the work that Walker Miller is doing, and then really get into the nuts and bolts of the Workforce Development Initiative, really on the BPI certification, and then the Business Incubator, and then wrap up with a quick announcement on our Energy Efficiency Academy for 2023, and then certainly open up for questions as well. So just quick background here, but last year was our first year in our energy efficiency workforce development initiative that was based in Detroit and really under the guidance of some previous studies that we're conducting that Cadmus had conducted as well. And we did some work with ICF also to really identify some key areas and some, in particular, 2 PUMA codes in the city of Detroit here highlighted. PUMA code 3208 and 3210 as areas of need in terms of high energy burden that also overlap with areas of we saw capacity opportunities, let's say, in the space of weatherization, but also in overall in energy efficiency. So we really focused our efforts in wanting to develop a workforce development around these 2 areas, or at least starting here, as a means to not only building capacity in the area, but also allow for opportunity growth, economic growth for individuals in the city of Detroit.
Perfect. So our target audience, we are basically reaching out to diverse, underrepresented individuals that are reflective in the communities they live in. We're taking community-based organization referrals, reaching out to the un and underemployed, opportunity youth, which includes the age range of 18 through 24, single parents, and then also looking at individuals who would be willing to be upskilled or retrained, and then another focus on returning citizens and veterans. So Walker Miller entered into the workforce development sector a few years ago, and we started with training and education, focusing on the BPI BA analyst, partnering with United Way of Southeast Michigan. And then we also partnered with Consumers Energy, where this past fall we did an upskilling BPI training initiative with them, where we focused on individuals who are already in the industry, and we got them trained in a shorter, condensed training program. And then we will be starting also with consumers this coming up Monday, another 8-week program for Flint residents to get their BPI BA certification. And then through our incubator programs, we've had initiatives in Illinois through ComEd with the EESP incubator program, and then also through Ameren, Illinois, with our diverse trade ally incubator pilot. And the incubator will be also talked about as part of the EE Energy Efficiency Academy program that we've done with DTE as well. Next slide, Jose. Perfect. So why energy efficiency? Why workforce development energy efficiency? So we found that there's significant investments in energy efficiency and clean energy, creating a healthier, efficient, more affordable, and resilient homes. We want to establish a robust local clean energy economy. And then this credential also leads to multi-sector opportunities. And those opportunities aren't just jobs, but careers. And these careers are low barrier entry, which lead to high economic and career mobility. And then not only the things I mentioned above, but it's good for the people, the planet, and the economy as well. Next slide, please. So with our program, it's 8 weeks, and it is with the Building Performance Institute's BA Building Analyst certification, as well as the Healthy Housing Principles certification. Certification is going to require participants to complete coursework and pass both a written and a field exam. Now, understand that BPI is transitioning to a new envelope certification as well, and I'd be more than happy to answer questions on that as well at the end. But basically, in short, it'll be transitioning to where there will be a BAT, a BA technician, and a BAP professional, and that would be inclusive in this envelope, and will require a different step. So individuals would have to pass the field exam first, which would be a prerequisite onto the written, which would be the BAP certification. In our programs, our students are compensated. They receive an hourly wage of $16 per hour, while also being provided other wraparound services, which include transportation. So we do provide gas cards and bus passes, hot meals every day. So we provide lunch, and then a child care stipend for those individuals who may have children that go to daycare. So we have a budget that is included with that. And then there are also, at the end of the program, we work on soft skills and interview skills to prepare them for interviews and job opportunities in the field of energy efficiency. So making sure that we're preparing them to enter into the workforce as well. Next slide. So just a quick rundown of the curriculum. We use the Residential Energy book by John Krieger and Chris Dorsey. We use the 6th edition, so our edition is the newest. Students will also be certified in OSHA 10, General Industry. And then they also, like I elaborated on the last slide, they're going to receive their soft skills training through us, where we do resume building, interview skills. We also go over math and problem solving. So we have a community partner that we utilize that comes in and focuses certain hours and certain days just on the math, because there is a lot of math that's entailed in this program. And then if the field training to the right, we'll go over just the concepts in the building science of houses, how to properly use tools such as blower doors for the blower door test and duct testing. We'll also go over like just basic science of the house, how things would flow in the house. They'll get a grasp on dangerous things such as carbon monoxide, so they'll get familiar with the CO testing, asbestos and lead. And then there'll also be a concept in there with how to interact with customers as well when you're going into their homes. It's also important to note that this program within the 8 weeks contains an OJT experience as well. So 2 weeks out of the 8-week program, students will be paired with local contractors, and they will experience an on-the-job training with them. That way they can kind of get used to the flow of what a work day would be. And then we use those partnerships and pairing to also as a segue into placement after the program. Next slide. And then what you see here is just a breakdown of our cohort in 2022. So we interviewed 51 candidates. It's important to note that we had over 2,000 applicants for this program as well. So we interviewed 51. We accepted 11. We enrolled 10. 8 of the 10 completed. Of those 10, we had 5 that were economically disadvantaged. 1 was in long-term unemployment. We had 4 female participants and 6 male participants. And then of the graduating 8, we had 4 females that completed and 4 males. So on the right, you'll see the coursework. So all 8 completed their coursework, which includes 100% passing rate for the written exam. 3 of those 8 were fully BPI BA certified. 8 of those 8 were fully healthy housing principle certified. And then at the conclusion, 3 of those 8 walked out with jobs within 2 weeks. And the average wage of those 3 is $20.94. To the right, you'll also see that 7 of those 8 received interviews with at least just one energy efficiency contractor. And then as of January 25th, and still currently, we are working with the remaining 5 that are in pursuit of completing their BA certification, the field exam as well. So there are some lessons learned from this program, and we're going to answer some of these questions as well, because I'm sure this will be a hot topic. But to the left, you'll see the lessons learned, and then the steps we'll take in 2023 to the right. But training expectations was one of them, making sure that our students have a firm understanding of the expectations of the training program, and then after the training program as well. Clarity on the career path and job requirements. So making sure that they have, again, a firm grasp on what career paths can be taken with this credential. Also, there was some mix up in regards to just thinking that this was a DTE opportunity rather than an opportunity with local contractors. So making sure that we clearly identified that as well. Transportation limitations are a main reason what led to 2 of our drops. And then just logistical challenges with the field testing. So we do utilize a house. So making sure that we have that good to go in terms of scheduled field tests. We were kind of delayed on the start of this, so we entered into September, which led into the fall and holiday season, which kind of delayed some of our field testing, as you can see in the numbers in the previous slide. So steps that we're going to take is we've added additional screening and vetting in the recruitment process. So we've added more pre-screening tools. We'll also be implementing a CASAS aptitude test, and that's not to disqualify anybody, but we're going to be using that CASAS test to measure reading and mathematics, and make sure that we get a firm understanding of the levels that individuals would be coming in. So if somebody needs more focus on reading or mathematics, then we get that to them. And if somebody is entering in and we don't think the levels are where they should be, we're going to be referring them to community-based organizations and partnerships to get that education training. We are also going to be inserting workshops. This is something that we really are excited for. So these workshops will be held prior to the interview process and the applications being distributed. These workshops will serve as like a community awareness, so that the community is aware of opportunities in energy efficiency. They're aware of who BPI is, what the BA credential does, career paths, career opportunities, and then we'll also have hands-on workshop sessions where they'll be able to get a feel for what a day on the job would be. They'll be able to work with the tools that they would be working with. They'll be able to do a blower door test with some of our energy specialists on site. And then we're also going to use this as a segue into the application and include it as part of our vetting process. So individuals will know up front, hey, this is for me, or this may not be for me. And those that it is for, we're going to use this as a pipeline into the application and into the cohort. We will be developing a landing page. So individuals that are interested can go right to this landing page, click on incubator or BPI, and it will take them right to the application or to the contact they need to get more information. And then we'll also be scheduling assessments early on in the process to avoid any logistical challenges that we may encounter. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this back over to Jose, and I look forward to all questions at the end that I can answer and provide some clarity on.
Yeah, thank you, Jonathan. So to add a couple things here, certainly some important lessons learned from this our first iteration of a workforce initiative last year, in particular with the BPI. I'll follow kind of the same structure as I talk about the business incubator, but to back up a little bit, since I didn't mention it earlier, we have two elements of our workforce development initiative, and that's this BPI certification training component, and then the business incubator that I'll cover shortly. And the reason really being, one, that we saw a need, and we heard from contractors for a number of years now, and agencies as well, that there's a need to continue to build the skills in the network, and having individuals know about BPI, being able to be raters, but also being able to do the work, right, and understanding the concepts of a whole home approach. So we really wanted to build that side through the BPI trainings, and glad to hear that others are doing the same. And certainly as we look ahead, and we just all heard from Maddie as well, and all the dollars that are coming in with IRA and all the additional funding also, critical to build on this skill set. Separately, we also wanted to build sort of an increased business community within, as we focus, as I mentioned earlier, within the city of Detroit. We know that it exists, but we wanted to bolster that even more, and certainly look for our energy efficiency programs as a way to help build the network in terms of capacity, in terms of quality of service, but also for their own businesses as well. So kind of a two-pronged approach that we've taken here. One other thing that I mentioned here with regards to next steps is, Jonathan mentioned the workshops. I think that's going to be a very critical element that we're introducing in 2023 to help not just set expectations for the applicants and for people that are interested and participated, but for them to also understand what the expectations of them should be from us, from the program, to understand that if folks are going to commit 8 weeks out of their lives to really go through the training, that it is not just as simple as show up and get a certification. For those of us that have gone through BPI training classes, it is pretty intense, and it deserves to be so, but it is pretty intense. And so I think it's important, and it's incumbent on us to ensure that folks understand that, so that we set them up for success, but they also understand from us, what are the real opportunities that exist? What am I really expected to be able to do with this certification? Am I going to have opportunities right away? In what field? And am I going to be in the field all the time? Am I going to have a contract, or can I do this on my own? And that's part of where both the workshop and the landing page that we're building right now is going to be designed to do, is to help bridge the gap of knowledge and also understanding, provide clarity of what the program provides. The landing page, and we've had this discussion previously in our workforce working group as well, through that Brad is also leading. The idea that having a resource or a site where people can go to and in a way make the connections between current opportunities, but also see when the next cohort of trainings is taking place, so that we can make those connections a little bit earlier. And we can also provide the right information about what the program is about, what the program can provide each individual, where the opportunities are. I think back to the transportation limitations. I think sometimes some of us take some of this stuff for granted too. If I live, I live in Brighton. If an opportunity is in Lansing, that might be a challenge. And even though I want to take the job, it may become a challenge just from a pure transportation need that impacts the rest of my life as well. So making those, connecting those dots for people is the intent there of that landing page. Okay, so going into the incubator, as I mentioned earlier, the idea here really is to educate diverse contractors, to build a network of diverse contractors to leverage our DTE energy efficiency programs and to work in partnership with us. The emphasis certainly has been, at least for the first year, was certainly on our energy efficiency income qualified programs, and that is being the EEA for single family and multifamily as well. Reason being that just given the need in this space, we thought that those would be the most appropriate programs to at least start. But we're not going to limit it in terms of participation, and we never have, nor will we, in terms of allowing contractors to participate in our programs. That was just the focus in year one, and now we'll look to expand to share on all the programs. Facilitating diverse certification application process. I think this is something that Walker Miller really brings to the table, and I know Carla is on as well. So thank you for joining too, Carla. But you know, this is a certification that is valuable and meaningful for companies, and many of them are diverse companies, have not necessarily gone through that process. So the program provides assistance and guidance going through that. Onboarding for our programs, as I mentioned, introducing contractors to financing organizations. This is a key element also that I'll touch a little bit more a little bit later. And then, as always, networking and making the connections between the different organizations and trade organizations also. Here's just a quick slide of the cohort for 2022. I think some familiar faces, some familiar names that you'll see here. Quick breakdown, and I'm sure this question will come up as well, not just in diversity, but also in terms of the trade that is provided. The majority of the contractors that participated were HVAC or weatherization or a combination of both, with a heavy emphasis on the PPI side as well. I know we had a relatively small cohort in 2022, as 10 contractors. So we had to sort of limit the number of trades that would be available, and so we decided that focusing on HVAC and weatherization was really kind of our starting point, and likely the one that has the greatest and most significant connection to our energy efficiency, at least most direct connection, I should say, to our energy efficiency programs. So that's why we started there. We know that there's always a need for electricians, there's always a need for carpenters, there's always a need for other skilled trades, and we don't diminish that value. We just felt that in terms of direct connection to the programs, this was the kind of the first step to ensure that it is directly connected to energy efficiency. One of the things that the program did a really good job is, as I found, and what I really like about Walker Miller's approach to the business incubator idea is, really understanding from the businesses on the front end what challenges they face in terms of, whether it's barriers to participate in the programs, barriers to expansion, barriers to, to grow their business, and this just highlights some of the areas that were called out, whether it's general opportunities or staffing, staffing being inclusive of field personnel, but also back office support. That seemed to have come up quite a bit as well. This gives us an idea for where the businesses are at the time prior to joining the incubator, and what opportunities we have in training and also guiding going forward. So just a quick overview of the curriculum, orientation, overview of income qualified energy efficiency programs, financing, marketing and co-branding, and then interactive activities as well that are really driven to grow businesses. So whether it's what Walker Miller calls the business growth plan, the business model canvas, back office support assessments and action plans, all of these are designed to provide additional support. And these are pretty intense. Some of them are in particular with regards to, it's not just a half a day or a 1 day engagement on the process, is really kind of a long-term, 6 to 8 week process of a business growth plan, for instance, of really working with that contractor to ensure that, where they are today, where do they want to go in the future, and how we can help them get there. Okay, so in terms of numbers, similar to the BPI, just kind of go a quick rundown here. Applications received 17 of them, accepted 12, enrolled 11, and then ultimately ended up with a cohort of 10 contractors. 11 contractors is still in the training. One of the contractors decided that, after reviewing the curriculum, that the majority of it was something that they're already doing. So they decided to back out, which was perfectly understandable as well. 10 of the 11 minority-owned businesses, 4 of them being woman-owned businesses, and 2 veteran-owned as well. So pretty diverse set of contractors participating in the incubator program, which is we're really happy to see as well. Overall satisfaction, 97%. I think that highlights a good first step in the first year. Let's see, you always want to strive for 100%, but great first step there. A relatively limited number of EWR projects or energy efficiency projects submitted, but keep in mind that this was all, as Jonathan mentioned earlier, this started really late, mid to late September into November. So just because there was that limited number of applications doesn't mean that this won't continue, right? That it was really just nothing but a starting point as I see it. Okay, some lessons learned, similar to what I just described, kind of the end of year, some time constraint associated with that 6-month incubator from the beginning of enrollment, recruitment to really launch and then graduation. This year, everything will turn more into kind of a 12-month cycle, which will help us get better insights and more long-term insights as well into success and what's working, what's not working. Hence the limited applications. Again, clarity on roles and responsibilities is kind of a theme that arose from the first year, and that's okay. It was a good learning year, and we'll certainly build from there. So similar to the BPI certification, we'll also be conducting those workshops to ensure that participating contractors are interested in companies or individuals, by the way. It doesn't necessarily need to be a contractor. It could, or an existing company could be someone who's looking to start their own business in the energy efficiency space, and they're looking to build their own career and take full ownership of their own career. They don't really know where to get started or how to engage with the energy efficiency program. This is an opportunity for us to engage with individuals like that as well and sort of spur a new company and a new opportunity there. Low engagement post participation, that's a challenging one, mainly given the timing of the year. So I think when it's the heating season, that's when majority of HVAC and weatherization contractors are very, very busy, and we certainly want to be respectful of that. So just allowing folks a little bit more time and then come back and re-engage. We want to maintain that relationship and ensure that there's success both on their end and on our end, so that we are also taking their feedback that allows us to build the program to be successful going forward. One other thing that I'll mention that is not included in here, but I also found to be an excellent takeaway, and as a piece of feedback we received from one of the contractors was, and I think Jonathan touched on this briefly, around the BPI certification structure as it is today and what it will be in the future. It's good that we're building BPI certified individuals to become raters mostly, but the network is also missing folks to actually get the work done. So as an example, installation, installers, or folks working in installation, or HVAC installers as well. And so that's what we're kind of working through as we're finalizing our plan for 2023, is what does that look like? Are we really gonna, take advantage of BPI's new structure to allow for the rater side, but also for the technical side of the installer piece? And so it becomes a 1 and 1A kind of approach within the BPI side to build a skill set on 2 fronts. And I thought that was really valuable and important information that we gathered also. Okay, as a closing slide, I'm happy to share that we are for this year, we launched kind of a branding around our workforce development initiative of our Energy Efficiency Academy, which will be starting this spring. So from here on forth, anytime we address our workforce development, we'll be discussing it under the umbrella of our Energy Efficiency Academy, which I think that in and of itself would also be helpful for future candidates or for individuals looking to see what opportunities are available, to have a single name that they can go to and see across materials, see across marketing opportunities, collateral, et cetera, and also certainly on the landing page. We'll be doing that. The goal is to expand cohorts for both the BPI and the incubator programs. I don't yet have exact numbers. We're working to finalize that now, actually, very, very soon. So we're excited about it. But in closing, I wanted to leave here with a couple statements from an individual, Marquise Burnett, who's now an energy specialist, actually with Walker Miller Energy Services, who went through the program. He's one of our first graduates, and I think really encapsulates what we're trying to achieve in our goal to ultimately help assist our customers in saving energy and money. So with that, thank you, Brad, once again, and the team. Trying to squeeze all the slides here as quickly as we could and give everybody time for questions.
Sure. No, I appreciate it. The slides will be available for everybody. I will send those out, and then they'll also go up on our webpage just in case you want to see them. There's a couple of questions in here, and the person who is not Emily Pallarito, I didn't catch your name. If you want to remind me what your name was, and then what does the SP in EESP stand for?
I can handle that, Jose, if you like. So in
Sure,
some markets, it stands for service provider, energy efficiency service provider. That terminology is used more in Illinois than Michigan.
Thanks, Carla. Brett, your HVAC question, I think, got answered. If not, go ahead. Why don't you go ahead with it?
It was, thank you.
Somebody has their hand up, and if you want to go ahead.
Hey, this is Steve Cato. I had a question about the, particularly with weatherization contractors. I know there's the financial coaching piece. Were there any particular vehicles that you identified to help with the startup costs? Or did the contractors that were in here have capacity to buy the truck, the blower door, et cetera? Like, can you talk about that a little bit? Because I know that's one of the bigger barriers.
I can talk about that if you like. We didn't have any startups. One of the requirements was that the companies already had to be in business. But we did introduce, and some of the contractors already had experience with several Detroit area CDFIs like Invest Detroit. And about a third of the contractors had actually received support through Michigan Saves, some of their loan programs to help them with equipment and labor costs.
And then there's another question from Ed Rivet. Thanks, Ed, for putting that in the chat for me. Where was the training facility located, the classroom space?
So for BPI,
no, you go ahead.
Okay, for BPI, we held it right at Walker Miller. And then we also have a training house that we utilize through Wayne Metro, which is in Highland Park, and it's actually about a mile, maybe 2 miles right down the street from Walker Miller. So the house, the weatherization training house is there with Wayne Metro. And then the incubator was held at Walker Miller as well, and we're right downtown on 2nd Ave.
Yeah, I think they were in opposite rooms. There were some opportunities there for networking as well that took place. Some sort of after training networking that Walker Miller facilitated between both the contractors and the individuals going through the training.
Correct. So Brett, I seen part of your 2-part question. Was there any connection between the two? And we held a mixer that involved the contractors and the BPI students, and they were able to basically do a round table, and each of the BPI students were able to go to each table where there's a contractor and kind of network get a feel for the opportunities that were available just through the contractors in the incubator program. And we do plan on continuing doing that and adding more mixers to the program, beginning and end.
Go ahead, Brett.
Yeah, thanks. The other question I'm just trying to wrap my head around is the BPI rater only, or was it that they're also being teed up to do actual contractor work, or both?
So the BPI, the BA, they're only getting their building analysts, so they're only going to be going through and doing the audits on the house, like identifying things to make the house more energy efficient. The contractors that you're referring to in the incubator, they're separated. So a contractor in the incubator program would be hiring, essentially an energy specialist with that BA credential to be on their team.
Yeah, Brett, if I could add, that is an area that we always envisioned as the reason why we saw benefit to having both pieces, is that in an ideal scenario, you can go from one, perhaps gain a little bit of experience, and then come back and go through the other, right? If that's the intent of individuals who see, okay, I see a potential in this field, I want to build my own company, to Stephen's question earlier, that they would then go through the incubator. Keep in mind that 2022 is really our starting year, and we kept things relatively small as a learning opportunity for us as well. Wanted to validate some of the assumptions. Carla and our team have a lot of experience coming from other states, and we want to make sure that what takes place here in the state of Michigan, particularly in the state of Detroit, was also validated. So we started relatively small, but that's part of the intent going forward, is to allow for that connection to be made. Whether individuals decide to do that, ultimately that'll be up to them. But yeah.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any other questions that they, well, you've got them here. Okay, very good. Thank you all. Thank you, Carla, for joining in too. I appreciate it. And like I said, I have the slides will be distributed. And then, and if you have any further questions for Jose or Jonathan, as I think your information was up on the slides, or else you can just send them to me and I will forward them on. Thank you both very much again.
Thank you, Brad. Thank you, team.
Mary, you on?
I am. Thanks, Brad. I just want to make a quick announcement for the sake of time. My name is Mary Wilkins, and I am a low-income energy policy specialist in the Public Service Commission's Customer Assistance Division. About less than a year ago, we formulated something called the Low Income Energy Policy Board, which is an advisory organization to this work group, and something known as the Energy Affordability and Accessibility Collaborative, that we call the EAAC for short. So that policy board is comprised of leaders from this work group, from the EAAC, from several of our state departments. It includes a couple of people with lived experience to inform the process, and several staff from the Public Service Commission. That policy board hosted a couple of webinars, Low Income Energy Policy Summit virtually in January. And I will place a link to the website for the policy board if anyone wants to view those presentations. But more importantly, coming up in February on the 27th, that's a Monday, we have a presentation that I wanted to invite you to from Justin Schott from the U of M's School of Environment and Sustainability Energy Equity Project. They've done a lot of work in the Energy Equity Project, and last year published a framework, and Justin will be giving us an overview of that in-depth framework on Monday the 27th from 10:30 to 11:30. And I'm going to place some information about that in the chat, and then also the policy board link, and it is being posted later today on the Michigan Public Service Commission's events page as well. So if you're interested in joining that, we'd love to have you. So that, again, that'll be on February 27th, a Monday, from 10:30 to 11:30 on the Energy Equity Project.
And when I get that email announcement, I will forward it out to everyone as well.
Thank you, Brad.
Okay, thanks, Mary. Okay. Lastly, I'm going to try and do something different, and it was brought to my attention. Linda Keefe is going to speak, and I kind of want to introduce her. She's an individual who she's not attached to any groups or advocacy groups or anything. But she approached me about, what's the possibility of addressing the work group in the meetings. And I kind of realized that, I've never done anything like this before, and it's not a bad idea opening it up for more of a public forum where people who are not affiliated, and they were, not professionals in this like most of us are, and so that the public would have a chance to not only just learn from from all the different advocates and professionals involved, but kind of get to participate and get more involved in the area of energy efficiency and environmental justice, energy equity, all of those kind of things, of the stuff that we talk about. And so I'm going to try to do this more often. And if we have individuals who don't have a forum, and if we can make this available for them. And so what I would like is, if you are aware of individuals like that, and point them in my direction, and we will make some time available for this discussion. Now, Linda is she'll cover in detail what it is that she's looking for, but she's in the Lansing area and interested in making connections and getting involved. And sometimes you don't know who to ask, and you don't know the questions to ask sometimes. And so all of you who participate in this are those people. And so with that, Linda, why don't you go ahead, and if I can help you as we go, I'm right here. And you're muted.
Thank you, Brad. And I liked your opening, that we're going to do something a little different today. A little background. Well, I've always been an advocate for low-income families, and I tried to do that through politics, but didn't make it much above county commission. What got me interested in this area again is that I had read that 1 out of every 6 families in Lansing suffers a shutoff every year. And that was really concerning. And then I had learned of another program, Consumers Energy is doing a pilot right now, the percentage of income payment plan. And so I just started doing more research and talking to just finding avenues, like, for instance, this venue. So what I'm hoping to do is to advocate for families in Lansing so that they can get help to get, weatherization, and even possibly some solar energy, if possible. There is the Michigan Saves program. I don't know much beyond that program. And then generally try and work with Board of Water and Light as well. I did submit 14 questions to them about what they're currently doing. I know they have the Hometown Help Project, and just to kind of get some collaboration going. And then as Mandy said, with the federal money coming in, it's really a perfect time. And so I really would just like to hear from some of you on what maybe some next steps might be, if I could, please.
And I will just say that we'll be any of you folks in the Lansing area, I will make Linda's information available to you. or Linda, you can put it right in the chat right now if you'd like, so that you can all
Sure.
reach out to her. But if anybody, has any questions or comments for Linda right now, certainly jump in.
Hi, Linda. This is Aileen Gow from the Board of Water and Light and your old neighbor.
Yes.
So nice to see you. And I did see you going into our depot the other night from afar. Recognize your due. But yes, I haven't seen those questions, but I do know that we are working very hard and very seriously on the low income community to make all those things happen. So there's lots of discussion amongst the different parties that work in the community. Lots of nonprofits. We work with tons of nonprofits that work with the low income community and get the word out on hometown help. We're replacing refrigerators, dehumidifiers, room air conditioners, and we are going to ramp up the program. As Marty said earlier, he nailed it. Before these homes can be electrified or have solar put on them, they have to have the building shell taken care of and their knob and tube wiring. So, and windows, etc. So that's number one. And then you size the other products accordingly. But as far as investment in, carbon neutrality in general, and yes, you're right. We were very aware of the demographics of our community, the amount of renters. We work with landlords. So not to defend everything we're doing, I just want to assure you, Linda, that we are on track internally.
Now that you mentioned landlords, because that was one of my thoughts, that a lot of information could be shared through landlords to their tenants. So I was wondering kind of what you have going for communications in that way.
So again, recently we had actually during COVID still, we have a refrigerator replacement program for income qualified people. And the local housing ombudsman from Lansing distributed an email to all the registered landlords in the state, letting them know that there was refrigerators available. And boy, oh boy, did the phone start ringing. And so they all got energy audits. It wasn't the easiest thing to implement. It took a lot of handholding, which is probably the biggest challenge to all these programs. And we're very willing to go out and hold hands all the way through to the end to get this done. So that was very exciting. So again, Lansing's kind of a small knit community. We're a little island in some ways, and it's important to us to work with all the same entities that we're populations, vulnerable populations. That's our target.
Right.
To help them along the way.
And with all the everybody's talking now about diversity, inclusion, equity, all that. Are there ways through Board of Water, excuse me, through Board of Water and Light that individuals, that's the whole idea with a lot of the, like Justice 40, a lot of these programs getting, community members involved.
So, well, we work in tandem with the cities, Lansing and East Lansing, and what they're so we have regular meetings with them, and also there's a group of people who have been meeting for a very long time, who it's actually an informal group, even though it sounds community community economic development, which really isn't. Again, it's an ad hoc committee. And we're all focused on affordable housing. So all the main players in town that are going to be seeking funds, partnering for funds, meet regularly. Linda, we can probably talk for quite a while more about Lansing Board of Water. The fact that you submitted some questions, I'll have to, refer back to see what that was all about. And, definitely happy to share more with you about the different groups in Lansing that, again, have been working on this for a very long time. And we do have some pilots. We have one at the Allen Neighborhood Center right now. So I don't want to take up everybody else's time on what you could be maybe focused in Lansing. I don't know if others have similar, I know others have similar strategies. If they could add, I see a couple of folks there, Brett and Mr. Skrotsky, that may have.
Yes.
Hey, Tim.
Yeah, thanks, Eileen.
Thank you. Ed.
Aileen and I sit on some of those groups. We meet regularly, but the Linda, nice to meet you. I'm in East Lansing, but close. There's a great little group called Lansing Environmental Action Team, and they are concerned about some of the very things that you are. And there's a link here in the chat that you can join, and they
Yes,
they
I am.
chat a lot. Right?
Yes, I'm in that group. Yes.
All right. Well, wonderful. Yes. Wonderful. Well, that's a great group. And then Capital Area Housing Organization, right? When we talk about landlords, that's the main group that I would channel some of those thoughts through. So.
Okay.
Right. In Allen Street neighborhood, and there's lots of grassroots organizations. So we're glad to connect as well.
Thank you.
Linda, and we
Thanks.
can talk about this other group that meets, it's all the folks involved with affordable housing. If you ever want to attend the meeting, I'll forward that information to you in the next meeting. And they have different speakers come in and different topics. We'll be speaking in April about our carbon neutrality efforts, focus, and what that means.
Oh, yes, that would be great. Thanks, Aileen.
Oh, no problem. Love to see you.
Same here.
And
Brett, you are frozen, but if you wanted to, if you're able to, go ahead and ask your question. Maybe not.
Looks like Brett's got his hand up, or he's frozen.
He does, but he's frozen.
It's cold over there in Grand Rapids, I guess.
Linda, I put Tim's links in. I'll send them out to you as an email as well, just so that you have them. Anybody else have anything that they want to pass along to Linda, and maybe Brett can get himself unfrozen between now and.
I mean, the only other thing I have is Elevate and Michigan Energy Options, Five Lakes Energy, and Slipstream, a group of nonprofits applied for Public Service Commission grant to look at affordable or electrification of affordable housing, a big planning grant as part of the Low Carbon Infrastructure Fund that the MPC had. And if we get that money, we are going to be working with all the groups in the city, looking at how we can electrify affordable housing and make it affordable for everyone. And we're going to have stipends and grants for individuals and nonprofits to participate. So if we get it though, right? It's a big if, but I'm very excited about that opportunity. So.
And what dollar amount might that be?
The stipends or the project?
Well, both actually.
Well, we asked, we're looking at, so the proposal that we sent in, and it's on the Public Service Commission's website. There's a link to it. We asked for $1 million, but we're looking at 5 or 6 different communities: Ann Arbor, Highland Park, Lansing, Grand Rapids, Benton Harbor, and Traverse City. So from wealthy to disinvested communities, and what that might look like in each one of those communities. And then the stipends, it depends. In some of the lower income communities, we're going to have larger stipends. We haven't really figured that out yet. We need to, Public Service Commission needs to approve it, and then we can kind of solidify some of our budgets on that.
See. Best of luck. I hope that comes through.
Yeah, I'm hopeful too.
Lindsay, are you talking about, you want me to send the links out to everybody that Tim just posted? Is that what you're referencing? Oh, okay. I don't know the information about the public service grant. I'll have Tim send that, and then I'll get that out. Brett's question about was your request, Linda, specifically just for the Lansing area only? Oh, and there it is. Thanks, Tim.
Well, I mean, it doesn't have to be, I guess, because that's where I live, and that I just was really overly concerned. Well, if you can be overly concerned, about 1 in 6 shutoffs a year. That's, 1 in 6 families affected every year with the shutoff was pretty concerning to me. So it doesn't have to be limited to Lansing, but I guess that's where I was kind of starting.
Okay. Because and I would throw out that there's a lot of people in organizations over in Grand Rapids area that are doing a whole lot of stuff that would be applicable to Lansing and also down in the Detroit area, and Tim's group at Elevate and EcoWorks and the Ecology Center and those folks down in Detroit would also be able to contribute as well.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
So Linda, this is Andrew McNeely, and I'm in the Upper Peninsula, so I'm not in Lansing, so I don't know the numbers that you're talking about. But I would ask you to just verify when you say 1 in 6, if it's the total number of shutoffs in a year divided by the population, because I know in our utility, many times it's the same houses that will be getting disconnection notices. So you may have a customer that gets 12 disconnection notices for one household, but when they report it as an annual number, it's 12 divided by however many customers you have. So then it may look like 1 in 6. So I just want to ask you to look into that. I don't know what the data was or how it was created.
Well, it was a Lansing State Journal article. But I also had some figures about Lansing population. For instance, 21.8% of people in Lansing are poverty level and below. The state figure.
Oh, I would agree with those numbers. I just wanted to, with the statistics, making sure.
This is Aileen.
Quiet up now.
Can I jump in real fast? And thank you, Andrew, for this, because this is so true. I've actually just been tracking quite a few households, and constantly shutoffs come up. I think it's part of their MO. And then there was a case where you had to have a shutoff in order to get assistance. So people that normally maybe wouldn't have gotten one allow themselves to get a shutoff. So there's kind of a lot of variables to those numbers. But I do want to add, because again, I'm very familiar with the poverty level here, that we just raised our income guidelines in order to be able to reach more, definitely, of the working poor, because they're in dire straits here. So that has been something we just did recently. I do want to refer back to an earlier presentation as well. For myself personally, I went through a similar training. I was in the disadvantage class at the time when I was younger, and I was in my late 20s, and I took a energy auditor training class, and I'm still employed. So they're well worth it. We are kind of lucky here. We've had an energy, a long time energy demonstration center, and a nonprofit that's been delivering energy efficiency programs in our community, and they are it's Michigan Energy Options, and they are our implementation contractor. And again, we just recently, and I know Yvonne's on the call, or I saw her, did a program in tandem with consumers. We're still working on it with the mobile home parks in our area. And if one of our auditors gets in the house, they're referring us to the other program. So there's maybe a lot more going on than you might know behind the scenes. As I said, I was disadvantaged. That's where I got my master's in low income. And I've been implementing energy programs ever since with an emphasis on low income. So we do have some community resource fairs coming up. We do a lot of outreach. It's getting people to participate. And we've been pretty lucky with that, even through COVID.
Right, and I did see for the hometown help project that you have that the income levels are almost 200% poverty levels.
They've just gone up to 80, the AMI level. So we're for Ingham County. So for one household, gosh, one person, we're at like the $47,000 net gross income.
Okay, because I was just on your, so that just happened pretty recently.
That just got updated. Yep.
Okay, because I was on your website a week or two ago and I saw lower numbers than that. Okay. I'll check that out again.
That's going to help a lot of our elderly, which we have 27% of, and most of them are in income. They're living on Social Security. Let's put it that way. And they may be above the old amount, and now they're going up.
Okay.
So, thank you, Karen. Definitely, we can continue, Linda, another time. So
yeah, absolutely. Thank you for weighing in so thoroughly, Aileen. I appreciate it. Linda, also, Mary Wilkins just posted in the chat a link to the Coalition to Keep Michigan Warm. And so that's something that you should familiarize yourself with, that group, because there's a lot of different people than necessarily are participating in here. It's more of an advocacy-oriented group, which clearly, since we work for the state, we can't do. So I would recommend that. I'm sending you all of those links as well. Brett, your hand is still up, so you're either still frozen or you had another question. So okay, there it goes. Anybody else have anything for Linda right now? And her information is in the chat if you want to further reach out to her. And other than that, then we're not getting out as early as I thought we would.
But we're getting out on time.
Yeah, we are getting out on time. That wasn't always the case when we met in person. All right, well, then thanks again to all the presentations today with Maddie and Jose and Jonathan. I appreciate it very much. And thanks for the contributions to working with Linda on this. And I wasn't sure where this was going to go and how it was going to play out, but certainly let's think if you have others, individuals that are looking for some kind of forum or introductions into this area, certainly point them my way, and we can start working them in. I think it's an idea that I like this idea of making this forum available for people who just don't know who to ask. And so with that, thank you, Brett, and we'll call it a day. We will be meeting again in March, and I think it's the 2nd. I can confirm that real quick. Yeah, March 2nd. So we'll see you all then. Have a good morning.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brad.
Thank you, Brad.